watching the Forefront Church video podcast. And wherever you're at viewing online, we just want to say thank you and welcome. And one of the ways that we can help connect with you is we want to hear from you and where you're at and how we can help. And so head over to forefrontchurch.info after the message and click the Connect tab. It's a great way for us to help you along your spiritual journey as you connect with God and learn about Jesus. And so sit back, relax. We hope that you're challenged and encouraged from today's message. I loved it last service, and I loved it this time, the collective what in the world just happened when Brandon goes, I'm a 90's kid. And a swath of people across the room and online are like, oh. Like you feel it sets in, doesn't it? When we were getting ready to start this series, and I asked, we're going to have other staff members that are going to be speaking from the stage. And so I went to said, hey, Brandon, what do you want to do? We're going to be talking about Psalm 90 through 99. And he's like, all right, I'm going to pick. And so he's like, I want to pick this one. I'm like, cool. And I said, why that one? He's like, oh, it just means a lot to me and whatever. He's like, and it's my birth year. And I'm like, oh. He's like, what were you doing in the 90s? I was like, college? And so there's a juxtaposition there that you'll be able to hear some fresh, just great knowledge from somebody who had just came out of the 90s. And so as I was thinking about this series, and we'll get to the connection and all these pieces here in a second, I was thinking about some of the things that I remembered most from the 90s. And those of you guys who are watching online, comment the things that you saw. But one of the things that I remember vividly was staying up entirely too late playing GoldenEye for Nintendo 64. Everybody, nowadays there's all kinds of weird stuff going on. There was nothing better than that really awkward controller in hunting down your friends on GoldenEye. There was something about it. We'd stay up late and do whatever. The graphics were awful, but it was just a good time. Fanny packs were a thing in the 90s. And they're making a comeback. And I'm going to say with clarity, I may not say it out loud, but I am silently judging you. If ladies, whatever, you make your choice. Guys, it's just a no. It's a hard pass. When in doubt, just don't do it. There were, I was looking, there's some Discmen. You guys remember the disc? Yeah. Now, if you're of a certain age where you're like, huh? There were these things called CDs. They're slowly vanishing from stores, and you will never know the pain that it was to have a Discman and then get the stabilizer in your car so you could drive over speed bumps and down the road, and you're like, it would start to skip. You're like, oh, I got it. Let me just turn on that stabilizer. We good. We all right. Or to try to run with that, and they made the promise it was not going to skip. Yeah, right. And you're running, and you're just jamming out to some, and doing your thing, Ace of Base, whatever. And which there was some music during that time that was, there was something to the music. There was one music genre in particular that's actually making a comeback, and I'm not quite sure how I feel about it, but I really enjoyed it, and then it slowly, it just took off during the 90s. How many of you guys remember ska music? Anybody? Yeah, all right. I like you guys much better than 8:30. 8:30, there were only, and you can tell people, there's only one of two classifications in this. You either go, what's that? Or you're like, oh, you're cultured. You got it. There's only, you believe in it, or you're just like, that's weird. Basically what it was punk rock music, add a brass section, and things got a little weird. I was in a ska band for a while. We toured and did stuff. If you search on SoundCloud, I will not tell you what, but you can find a whole album of me singing with angry music. And we were like, oh, really? Do not spend your time doing that now, okay? There was a chapter that has been closed, and it's closed for a reason. And so there were a lot of things that happened during the 90s. One of the things that happened, like I mentioned before, is that I spent time in college during the 90s. And it was during that time I went away to Bible college to see, really, is God real? If he is, what am I going to do with my life? And I went away to college, and these themes really started changing for me in the 90s. And I gave my life to Christ in the 90s. And so as I gave my life to God, and I was like, I'm going to follow him, I'm going to go into ministry, I met this guy, and he started sharing with me, I guess I'd say a mentor, who's kind of sharing me, hey, if you're going to follow God and this is going to be your thing, whether you're in ministry full time or you're a believer and you're sharing your faith, I want to encourage you with this. And someone encouraged me with it, and so I'll encourage you. Every morning when you wake up, you should start your day with God, and every night when you go to sleep, you should end your day with God. And so, I want to encourage you to create the habit of, in the morning when you wake up, read a psalm and from the book of Psalms, and then in the evening, read a proverb. And you can read other stuff, you can read other books, read other stuff in the Bible, but man, start your day in the Psalms, these songs to God, the celebration of God, and end your day with some wisdom that could really help you and guide you and direct you in that. And so I started a habit in the 90s of opening my day up with God and reading the Psalms and ending my day in Proverbs. And there was something about the Psalms that just spoke to me. When I would read them, I'm like, man, God, you are amazing. God, I've had turmoil. If you've ever had trouble, the Psalms. If you've ever had a harsh relational breakup, maybe it was a dating relationship, maybe it was a friendship relationship, the Psalms. If you've been let go of a job or you've had trouble and life has been hard, the Psalms. If you've wandered down a road that you knew you shouldn't go and it weighed heavy on you and you wondered how God felt about you, the Psalms. And especially, in particular, Psalms 90 through 99. I don't know if God's it's okay if you have a favorite, chunk of the Bible, but there was something in there that really resonated with me. And when we do our series planning every year, and we plan our series out a year in advance, which for any of you guys, when you sit through a service and you're like, man, they knew what I was going through. No, God knew what you were going through. God planned it in advance. We have it all the time. Man, it's like you had a camera in my living room. Well, one, we don't have that type of budget. And two, that would be creepy. But what we do know is that God sees all. And so as we were planning this, man, I really think it'd be cool to just sit for some weeks and just kind of take in what the writers in the Psalms had, and especially this 90 through 99. So you'll hear that over the next few weeks. I absolutely fell in love with the Psalms. And so if you have a Bible, we're actually going to start off out of the gate in Psalm 90. If you don't have a Bible, we give them away for free at the Get Connected table in the lobby. It has the big Forefront Life University banner. Those are all our summer classes, which it's really cool that when I have one of our staff members go, hey, we're going to have to order more shirts because more people are coming to our classes. Hey, we're going to have to maybe offer some of these again. You'll have to think about it, depending if these classes get full. I love it. And so you could stop by there, pick up a Bible, sign up for classes, or if you're more digitally inclined or you're watching online, you can go to forefrontchurch.info. And you might be like, man, Jason, you guys say this every single week. You'd be surprised. I have people who come here for years, and then they'll be like, hey, I heard you talk about that .info page. What is that? And I was like, I say it every week. They're like, for real? You do? No, you don't. I was like, go back and watch the podcast. What in the world? And so I'm not here to shame you. I'm here to help you. .info, swipe a couple times and get to the notes section. Everything that we're going to look at today is right there for you. Fill in your notes, email it to yourself. We want you to engage the Bible because we know that it can begin to change your life. If you would just dive in and go, God, all right, I don't know what this is about, but I want to start and I want to see what's in store for my life in you. And before we get into Psalm 90, we're going to read, it's 17 verses. You guys can hang in there. I know you can do it. And they're like, oh, 17 verses. Your life will be just fine. I promise you'll be breathing in and out by the end of this, and you'll be good. Psalm 90 is written by a guy named Moses. And if you're not familiar with the Bible or anything, Moses is, if you've ever watched a movie with Charlton Heston, Let My People Go, that's Moses. All right, well, not in the movie, but in the thing, that's Moses. And he is just this amazing man of God. And we catch up with Moses as he did. Pharaoh lets the people go from Egypt, the nation of Israel, and they travel through and they're wandering the wilderness. And Moses has just gotten word that, hey, I know I told you guys you were all going to enter into this amazing place, and they are, just not you. And if you've ever received bad news and it rocks your worldview a little bit, Well, Moses has gotten some pretty big news of like, hey, all that stuff that you've been faithful, you've been honoring all that, and I know you thought that you just get all, well, they're going to get it. Some things have happened, some things have changed. I'm sorry, man, that's not going to be you. And in the shadow of that, he writes this psalm, and this psalm has been come to know the funeral psalm. Now you might be like, wait a second, Jason. You said that the Psalms were like joyous and exciting and the Proverbs were like wisdom, and now you're gonna read us a funeral psalm. Thanks for that. And I'm so glad I woke up early, especially all the 5 p.m. forefront after dark people who are so cranky walking through the door. They're like, you changed 5 p.m. service for the summer. I didn't know the day started before noon. We're glad you're here. Put a smile on your face, grab some coffee, and put on your big girl pants and big boy pants. And so when we get into this funeral psalm, it has 2 huge questions for us that will set the tone for the rest of this 5 weeks. And I think if we're honest with the answers out of these 17 verses of the 2 questions that we ask, it'll change your life forever. It will absolutely change the direction in which when you wake up in the morning, how you move, how you breathe, how you interact with family, friends, coworkers, neighbors, that everything will change in light of how you answer these questions. And Moses pens these words, and while they're heavy, it gets lighter as it goes on and more joyous, but he has to kind of yank us back to some stark realities about how long we have on this planet. And well, starting in verse 1, it says, Lord, you have been our dwelling place throughout all the generations. Before the mountains were born, or you were brought forth the whole world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. And so he starts in worship. Your people, you turn your people back to dust, saying, return to dust. You are saying, you have control of how we breathe, whether we live, whether we die. God, you're the one in control. It's not us. Said 1,000 years in your sight are like a day that has gone by, or like a watch in the night. Yet you sweep people away in the sleep of death, and they are like the new grass in the morning that springs up new, but by the evening it is dry and withered. And so he's using this poetic illustration of life is short. We don't have very long, even though some days it feels like forever. Our existence is very brief. He said, we are consumed by your anger and your indignation. We're terrified of your indignation. I want to pause there, because then we're like, whoa, this is getting dark. This is getting heavy. And I hear people all the time who share the verbiage. They're like, man, I don't know about God. God's like, he's this mean curmudgeon in the sky, and he's ready to throw down a lightning bolt. Or you've had friends that you've opened up to about faith and the divine, and you've spoken with them, and they're like, oh, I could never go to church, because if I go to church, man, the walls will collapse. The building will catch on fire. I'm going to get struck by lightning. Yeah, they're like, oh, no, I'm not stepping foot in there. Everybody will die if I walk in there. And I understand, but when it's talking about this verbiage of God, things are heavy. We want to paint God most oftentimes as God's love, God's grace, God's beauty, God's joy, God's truth. But think back for many of you, or even if you don't have kids, if you've watched people with kids, the moment they say, hey, Johnny, pick up your shoe. Oh, okay. All right, put it away. And then you walk away, and then you come back, and you're like, oh, the shoe's still there. Hey, Johnny, I told you to put away your shoe. And he goes, oh, okay, why is it still there? I don't know. All right, pick up your shoe. Okay? All right, buddy, I told you you're going to listen this time. Yeah, I'm going to listen. All right, and you walk away, and then you come back, and what happens? Shoe's still there. You're like, hey, and Johnny, I love him. And you're like, hey, how do I put this? You didn't put the shoe away. Why'd you do that? I don't know. Where's the shoe at now? Right there. Can you pick it up? No. Like there's this like banter that happens here. And unlike a parent who's getting ready to come uncorked very quickly, God, I understand why people paint the curmudgeon in the sky. Because they go, God's mean. Well, why is God mean? Well, because God will hold me accountable, and I don't like that. Well, why don't you like that? Because I want to live how I want to live. Well, now we're starting to boil down why we feel that God's this way. Because unlike the parent that is about to lose their mind, God has been very plain from up front, going, I love you, I care for you, I know what's best for you. And here are the things that I expect of you as you claim to follow me. And I need to let you know that there's consequences for if you walk down that road. I love you and I will never leave you. But if you walk down that road, you're choosing things that you may not like. And so I get why this verb, Moses is a little bit like, man, he's a little disgruntled. He was just told he doesn't get what he wanted. If you've ever watched a kid, or for crying out loud, adult, not get what they want. When I was traveling recently and people were told that their flight was going to be delayed, wow, how quickly 35, 40, 50-year-olds turn into 5-year-olds. You mean you don't control the weather? Like flipping out when we don't get our way. And I understand this, but Moses is a little disgruntled, but he understands. It continues on. You have set our iniquities before you, our secret sins in the light of your presence. All of our days pass away under your wrath. We finish our years with a moment saying, listen, life is short and we will have hardships. We will have trouble. As our days may come to 70 years, 80 years, if our strength endures, yet the best of them are but trouble and sorrow. He's noting, God, I can't do this on my own. God, the only way that I can move through this life is with you. I cannot produce anything good unless I have connection and movement and a friendship in following you. And he moves to for they quickly pass and we fly away. If you've ever heard the song, Some Glad Morning When This Life Is O'er. Like 3 people know that song. This is what I love about Forefront. People come in and they have a church background. They're like, people didn't sing in your church. And I go, yeah. And they go, why is that? I was like, because we reach people who don't have a history of faith. And so they're having a hard time. I'm glad they're here. And they're like, oh. That's why when I ask a question of something like that and I name an old hymn, this is where that hymn was written from, this passage. And I say that and like 5 people do it. So you have a history of faith. The majority of the room anytime we gather doesn't. And I love that about our church. That we're watching people come to faith who do not have a background in faith. I love that we get to be a part of that. It says, if we only knew the power of your anger. Well, wait a second, you talked about it 3 verses ago, Moses. I think you're bouncing back and forth here. And it's like a kid. Oh, I knew what you did. Hey, I'm angry. Oh, no, I didn't. I don't know why. I don't know why you're angry. Why are you yelling? Why is that? And we do this with God, even though God is calm with us. It says, your wrath is great as the fear that is your due. When it talks about fear, it's talking about honor. This verse is huge, and this is where we're going to sit in. Teach us to remember our days that we may gain a heart of what? Wisdom. That we may gain a heart of wisdom. Relent, Lord. So now it turns a corner. God, I want to follow you. God, will you let up? Will you show grace? How long will it be? Have compassion on your servants. Satisfy us in the morning with your unfailing love that we may sing of your joy. Be glad all of our days. Make us glad for as many days as you've afflicted us. And that Hebrew word afflicted is we're looking at that just saying you've given us these days and we're here and this life's hard, but man, we're going to follow you as long as we have time on this earth. There's many years that we have seen trouble. May your deeds be shown to your servants and your splendor to their children. May the favor of the Lord your God rest on us. Establish the work of our hands for us. Yes, establish the work of our hands. What Moses is saying is, hey, listen, life's short. Don't miss it. Life is short. God, I know I've failed. Please don't forget me. God, please don't hold back your love and your grace. And I want to follow you, but I need you because I know that in an instant, this life could be gone. We watch that unfortunately, a lot in this community and in this church. We have so many people that from military backgrounds, spec op people that go overseas. And the unfortunate part about being in a community like this is we watch amazing men and women go and serve, and sometimes they don't come back. And we see loss, and we see hurt, and we get to know firsthand in a community like this that life is so short. And the 2 questions that this ultimately leads Moses to, that he's asking God, he asks others, is one, am I ready that if my number was called today and my days were done, am I ready to go? And it kind of pulls Moses back, it pulls the listener back, it pulls us back, wait a second, I got lots of things to do. Like I have plans, I got a vacation plan, I got this plan, I still got to do all this stuff, I got all these people, what I haven't talked to you. We go, man, are we ready? If today were the day, would we be ready? And in light of that question, the next question is, depending on your answer to the first question, how will your life change? You see, the unfortunate part about this that we see when we explore the possibility of following God is that we go, God, I want you, but I'm going to keep you at arm's length. Because you know what? I've been hurt by church. I've been hurt by Christians. And well, you let, Uncle Ted pass away, and I prayed that he wouldn't. And so was hurtful to me when I was a kid, and you let that happen. And God, this and that, and we start making a list, and we go, God, you've hurt me, and I'm mad that you didn't remedy those, and so I'm going to keep you at bay. I don't want to get too close. And God's going, then you will never see the change unless you open up your entire life to me. And I was taking some notes and kind of came to this realization that we push God away from coming too close. We just want to visit with God. You have those friends, maybe even over Memorial Day weekend, you went over and you visited somebody's house. You went, you swam in the pool, you ate the food, you did all the stuff, and then you go home. Why? Or maybe you had the people come over and you loved having them there, but there always reaches a time when you look around at whoever you love, and then there's a bunch of people you've invited over, and you give them the look of, these people gots to go. It is time. We visited, we love you, go home. All right. And you send them on your way. Why? Because it's fun to visit, but you don't want them to move in. If they showed up to the Memorial Day cookout with all their stuff in a U-Haul, things would get a little dicey, right? You wouldn't want that to take place. And we do, because of the situations that have happened, we do the very same thing with God and our faith. God, that's good. I want to keep you. There's been too much. And here's the thing. He isn't interested in scheduled visitations. God's packed, ready, and he's moving in. And I meet people who say, I haven't seen God's movement because why? Why isn't that happening? I go, I know exactly why. Because you've invited God in to right here, but no further. And you're wondering why God hasn't fully changed some things in your life because you haven't fully surrendered your life into the hands of the one that can move and do the changing. And people, we get this list because we keep them at bay. I'm going to complain about this piece and this piece. Well, how come God didn't do this? How come God didn't do that? And there's a lot of things that I ask those same questions. God, why didn't you? And fill in the blank. And in that moment, what I'm doing is holding them at bay, and I'm stopping the very movement of God by choice. I'm saying, God, I'm going to keep you right here. I'm not letting you in. I'm not letting you do this stuff because I have a laundry list of things that you owe me. And I love the way that Robert Madu puts it. He says, stop complaining to the master about the pieces you didn't get and start praising God because you are a masterpiece. Saying, listen, everybody has moments. We could ask person, which we're not going to do, so don't freak out. We could ask person after person to walk up on stage and say, what's the thing that you get frustrated with God about? And almost every single person in this room would be able to articulate, if not everyone, here's the thing that I want answered from God. And I don't know why he hasn't changed it, moved it, answered it, etc. And my prayer is that we'll stop holding him, holding him at arm's length, going, God, I want to invite you in, but only to hear, and stop complaining and look and go, God, in light of the fact that life is short, I want to move in you. And so if you don't hear anything else, my prayer is that you get this. Life is short. Dig in, do the work, and end the day drained. And for some of you, you're like, got the last one, check, I'm good. Got 45 kids at home. Life, I'm drained. You want to talk about drain, and I get it. That's not the kind of drain we're talking about. Okay? I understand that completely. But that's not where we're going with this. And you see, as we hold God at bay, my hope is that we understand from what Moses is writing in Psalm 90. All right, Moses, I get it, life is short. I want to dig in. I want to worship God. I want to surrender my life to God. I want to do the work. I want to foster this in my life in every single way possible. And I want to end the day drained, pouring out my life to others. See, but I meet people that start to open up to God and they go, man, I've been reading in the Bible. I had a conversation this week with a guy. He called me up and he's like, hey, Jason, I want to talk about the end times. And I was like, cool, let's talk about the end times, because that's a light afternoon conversation. And he's like, wants to get into all the stuff. and that goes on. And people hold all kinds of different views about, does it happen this time, this time, this time, who's coming, what's coming, and I'm just like, God wins. I don't really care. Like, and so they want to get into all of it, but the person I'm talking to, they have a problem with how they treat their spouse. Like, I want to talk about like angelic tongues and how they speak. And I kind of stopped him. I'm like, hey, let's not worry about what angels said and how they said it and whatever else. I said, let's talk about how you say things to your wife. Well, I talked to her just fine. I was like, that's not what her email says. See, she's hurt by you. Let's talk about these pieces. And what we do, when we keep God at arm's length, we want to flirt with faith. We start to elevate all the exterior topics instead of looking at the things that can really elevate our connection with God. And I love the way Christine Kane, she's a pastor that travels around the world and speaks at conferences. I was listening to her at a conference and she shared this. She said, we ought to be ruthless about what goes into our minds. It's the boring stuff that's going to sustain us. And I was talking with this guy. I was like, I got some Bible verses about whatever. I don't want to read Bible verses about my marriage. I want to read about end times. I was like, well, it's going to be the end times if you don't deal with what's going on in your marriage. And don't worry about Jesus. You need to worry about who's sleeping next to you. Keep one eye open, bro. Going to be on the ID channel. Let that sink in. People are nudging their friend. You see, there's going to be those things that you don't want to do. I tell people all the time, hey, my connection with God isn't this, it isn't that. I was like, when's the last time you read your Bible? Oh, I'm so tired of you asking me to read your Bible. Read my Bible, read my Bible, read my Bible. Pray, pray, pray. Serve, serve, serve. And I'm like, cool, how are you doing with that? Stop talking about that. Like, well, those are the things that we watch because of the very basic things. It's the same reason that Jesus only taught about a handful of things, really, when he was in his ministry over the course of 3 years. Why? Because he knew that back then and then today, there would be people who claim faith, who want to go deeper, who want to do the things, who want to hear a story about like the woman at the well. And they go, I don't want to hear about all this stuff. I want to know how big was the well? What rocks did they make it out? How deep is it? And I go, we don't need to worry about how deep the well is because there's this basic surface faith thing that he's called you to, and you read your Bible one time a month and you wonder why your faith is lackluster. Well, reading the Bible's boring. I go, man, I don't know if you got, what Bible did you get? Because the Bible that I get has tons of stuff that is awesome, that stretches me, that makes me go, ooh, I don't like that God. And he's like, well, that's it. And I'm like, oh. And it moves me as a parent, as a husband, as a believer, and it changes me. And I'll watch this happen in people's lives, and there's so many people that this happens to at the church, that people who believe God is wonderful above all things, they go, man, I'm going to pour in the things that might be boring to others that are so good, that all things will give their lives unconditionally, as they believe this, to the spread his wonder to all peoples. And I've watched this happen. I wrote down some of the people that I've watched this take place. And there's a guy named Robert McLaughlin who's here at our church who, in between services, in between our morning services during the rest of the year and our evening service, when all you guys are gone, he cleans the building. Some of you guys may even see, like after our 11:30 service, he's usually around doing stuff, and you may never even have noticed him. He's quiet, keeps to himself, does his thing. But I'll come back from lunch, and I'll watch him, and he'll be out in the parking lot picking up trash that you left and your kids left. And he does it. I've watched him do it in the rain. And I come back, and I'm running in the building, and he's just walking out there picking up stuff. And I've asked him before, I'm like, Robert, why do you do what you do, man? He's like, man, I don't want any distractions for people to meet Jesus. Watch him crawl underneath these things and pick up people's coffee cups that left him during service. And he does it all because he wants people to meet Jesus. There's a guy named James Gunther who's teaches our kids back there, and he, through his thick New York accent, like he just tells people about Jesus, and he teaches the kids. And I've gotten to know James a lot. He's one of our elders here at the church, and he volunteers in other areas. He's a small group leader, he and his wife. And hey James, why do you? Man, I love seeing the kids' faces light up when they listen to him. They don't listen to you, but they listen to him. So if you see him, just be like, tell him to clean his room. Tell your kids, and he'll relay the message. But those kids light up. Why do you do what you do? I want people to meet Jesus. I want to pour out to them. There's a guy, Jim Regal, who plays bass, and not playing this weekend because we have amazing musicians that rotate. Jim plays bass, but when Jim came here, and you might not notice about Jim, not only is Jim a phenomenal musician, but when Jim came here, he didn't know Jesus. He just came, and then he got baptized, and after a while, I stopped seeing his post about going out and playing at bars and clubs with these guys. It's like, hey, I haven't seen you post in a while about that. Are you guys still playing? He's like, they're still playing. I was like, how come you're not playing? And he's like, well, I was looking at my time and schedule. I had to make a choice, and I wanted to make sure. He said, I still hang out with them, but I want to make sure that I know these songs, because when I stand up here, I don't want to hit a wrong note, and I want to honor God. And I was like, man, I said, most people don't. I said, occasionally people will send in a card saying they so-and-so messed up, but they don't, they send cards about everything. I just throw those away. And so... but I was listening to him. I was like, you could still play in the band and do whatever. And he's like, I know I could, but man, I want to help people meet Jesus, man. There's a gal named Jada Miller here at our church who helps in our student ministry for 6th through 12th grade. And her husband Kevin lead a small group. And if you ask Jada, and she would be totally transparent, and I feel very okay saying this. If you ask Jada, and you said, Jada, how's your life? She'd be like, oh, it's a train wreck. She would look right at it. She's like, yeah, things are crazy. Got teenage kids, whatever. The bar, they have 3 kids. And we leave the small group and do whatever. She's like, I never know what's happening. But I would disagree with Jada. Because I watch her life and I watch these precepts play out in her life. And I'm like, man, Jada knows. Anybody that's near them within a mile radius of being neighbors with them, no matter where they live, they know not only that the Millers love Jesus, but they can come over and get anything. Anything. That every person that they meet, they continually bring people to faith. They are living out years later, decades later, living out their faith. They met Jesus here and just life changed for them. And they take time for teenagers, invite people into their homes, do all this stuff because why? And I've asked her, she's like, man, this church introduced me to what God's love's like and the love of Jesus. And man, we're going to share that with other people. There's a lady here named Morella Stallnaker who is amazing. She's helped out with when we've done sports ministry stuff and out in the community had teams, and her and her husband Ray lead a small group, and she does usher stuff here, and she's helped out behind the scenes in a lot of ways. But Morella's the type of person that always has a smile, but she could also tell you that your mama's ugly and the worst person ever, and you'd be like, thank you. That was so nice. She has a way to be able to couch stuff that's so difficult, and has a way I am not, that we talked in our last series, gentleness. She has a way to say that. And if you ask Morella, why do you do what you do? Why do you pour that? Why do you do all that stuff? Her house could be burning down. She'd just be smiling. She's like, 1, I work for an insurance company, so I know how it goes. And 2, it's just stuff. It's just stuff. And there's something about watching her and her husband in their life where I just go, man, wonderful above all things to give your life unconditionally to spread his wonder to all people. And all of those people and many more around this church have these 3 things in common. The first is they dig in. They dig in. They go, God, I'm going to worship you. I'm going to honor you. My life will echo everything that your son Jesus did. And I might not always get it right, but I'm going to dig in and honor you with everything because they get these verses. Verse 10, our days can come 70, 80, strength endures. Man, but they know there's no way they can live their life without God. They go, God, I need you to help me. Because why? They want to satisfy us in the morning with your unfailing love, that we may, and what it leads them to is to do the work. Say, God, I'm going to trust you, and I'm going to do the hard things. God, I'm going to read my Bible. God, I'm going to pray. All those people, I know because I've talked to them, and they, all those people have had moments where, they woke up in the morning, and you know what they didn't want to do? Read their Bible. They woke up in the morning, and they're like, I don't want to pray. I'm frustrated. I'm this, I'm that. And you know what they do anyway? They pray. They read their Bible. They connect with God. And why do they do that? Why do we connect in the morning? So that we may sing of your joy and be glad all of our days. May the favor of the Lord our God rest on us, establish the work of our hands, establish the work of our hands. And what they know most is they want to end the day drained. And not by drained of life and just the running of things. That God help my life emotionally and spiritually pour out to anyone who needs it, no matter what. You know how I know that's true of them? Because I meet people who use their names in conversation about why they still follow Jesus. Because they get that life is short, and that question of how will you live it changes everything. That's why we see this. Lord, I've been your dwelling place throughout all generations. They've watched it. We watch it happen with others. They pour into us. May your deeds be shown to your servants and the splendor of your children. Let me give that away to others. And over this whole next 5 weeks, as we look through the Psalms, man, I love that we get to do this. But it hinges on this. If today was the last day, are you ready, and would that change the way you live right now? And Moses got it right. He said, life is short. So we need to dig in. God, I want to follow you. I want to worship you. I want to do the hard work. God, let my life echo your son Jesus so much that I lay my head on the pillow and I'm drained going, all right, God, we're going to do it all again tomorrow. But you are good. That's my prayer for you, is that all those things could be said of your life. And not by you, but by the people around you. Because you understand that life is short. So you've changed the way you live it. Would you pray with me? Thanks for tuning in to the Forefront Church video podcast. Our hope and prayer is that this has left you encouraged and challenged you in your faith. And you might have some questions and some ways that you want to figure this out, and we want to help with that. Head over to forefrontchurch.info, and there's a couple different ways that you can connect. Click the Connect tab and let us know how we can be praying for you, or a staff member can be contacting you this week. Maybe you have just been encouraged by this and want to support the ministry here at Forefront Church. You can click the Giving tab, as well as other tabs that are in there to help you along in your journey with God. And so we're thankful for you. Thanks for tuning in, and we cannot wait to see you again here online on the video podcast. We love you, and we'll see you then.